With the Cricut product family, there's a focus on introducing technology that makes crafting more accessible. With the Cricut Autopress, there's an introduction of automation to their heat press lineup. I'm James Hertz from MUO, and we're going to talk about how the Cricut Autopress can both simplify your work and crafting. Now, if there's an initial barrier to entry with Cricut products, it's not in the actual use of their devices, but rather in the setup process. With the Cricut Autopress, it's not Bluetooth enabled, so you're not going to be using the Cricut Heat app to do the setup and activation for the device. Instead, you're going to need to download Design Space and follow the prompts there. Now, if you turn the unit on just by itself, the control pod is going to tell you that there needs to be a USB connection for setup. So once you get in Design Space and follow the prompts, you're given a very detailed visual representation of how setting up the Cricut Autopress goes. So if you're new to technology, this is a very inviting way to bring you into the fold. Overall, once you follow the prompts, you'll get the Autopress set up really easily. So let's talk about what the Cricut Autopress offers. First off, it is Cricut's largest ceramic heat plate with a measurement of 15 by 12 inches versus if you have Cricut's EasyPress 2 or 3, which maxes out at 12 by 10 inches. So also with the ceramic heat plate, you get a maximum of 400 degrees Fahrenheit with edge-to-edge even heat. Now, in terms of actually warming it up, it takes around 8 minutes to reach that maximum 400 degrees from normal room temperature. So it's a really fast process if you're trying to get it warmed up quickly to start working with it. Now, other things about it is built with steel, and these are heat-ready plastics. So what else does it offer? As previously mentioned, there is automation with the unit. You simply close it with a minimum of 2 fingers for a really easy zero effort operation. Now once it's closed, it's automatically going to pop up after auto adjusting to the materials, which can reach a maximum of 2 inches in thickness. Now also there is a non-slip silicone mat that was specifically made for the Autopress, and it really is stable on there. So if you're trying to prevent any accidental movement of what materials you're loading in, it does a good job with that. So let's segue into some of the safety features of the Cricut Autopress. Now first off, when turning it off, if you do have it locked, the control pod will change from the temperature status to a lock screen showing that you have not unlocked the Autopress. Now other things to keep in mind is there are clear LED light indicators at the front of the Autopress. When it's orange, it's showing that it's warming up. If it's red, it's showing that it's either locked or the control pod has been disconnected, and there's a green light showing it's ready for use. Now, in terms of other things, it does use certified temperature-rated plastics, and there is assisted airflow via fans to make sure the Autopress is safe for your uses. Now, as an added protection for the Autopress, it does operate like Cricut's other heat presses. It will automatically shut off after inactivity. Now with the Autopress, it does take a little longer at around 13 minutes. Now when this does happen, the control pod is going to display that it's going into sleep mode, and you're going to hear an audible beep. So with that, you're knowing that the Autopress will shut down shortly thereafter and protect you from any risk with the added heat from it. With the Cricut Autopress, let's talk about movement within your home and business of the device, as well as just storage. Now first off, it is built with high quality materials, so it's a bit heavier than the other Autopresses that Cricut offers. Now towards this end, there is a handle at the back, and you can lift it via the support on the bottom. Now also there is the option to store it vertically if you're trying to save space. While it does fit standard on most countertops, you can also tuck it away neatly when it's not in use. So if you have something like a free shelf, or you have a corner where you feel safe about placing it, it does rest nicely on its back. Overall, it's a very compact heat press compared to some of the commercial options available, and you can really fit it where you need it. So let's revisit the control pod with the Cricut Autopress. Now, while I've talked about it appearing with different displays for different use cases to alert you of things, it is going to be your main temperature control. Now, there are 4 presets at the top of it, which allow you to easily set different temperatures as well as times. Now, typically to find these settings, you're going to either be using the Cricut Heat app, or you can use Cricut's Heat Guide. Now, from the point of using the dials, I do want to discuss a little bit about it. Now, in most cases, they're very responsive and you can quickly set your temperatures, but in some cases, they may go too quickly past some of the values you're wanting to set. Now, it's not really a big deal considering you can use these presets, but if you're doing a lot of different materials and jobs, this can be a minor downside. But overall, it's really useful if you have a more focused set of materials that you're going to work with. So let's move on to talking about the actual operation of the Autopress. Now, when working with the handle, you can follow Cricut's noted zero effort approach where it takes just 2 fingers to close the device, or if you feel more comfortable, you can use your full hand. Now, once you actually do have the press closed, it's going to automatically adjust to the material thickness up to 2 inches, and the motors are going to engage and keep it pressed shut. After the countdown on the timer begins, it will hit 0 and Autopress will open up. Now, one of the wonders of what it does is it does have a hinge-based system, so right before actually closing, it adjusts so there's no material pinching or shifting, so you can have a good clean finish on your heated product. So with all these things in mind, the Cricut Autopress is designed for batch production. Now, what's related to this? Now, if you have a Cricut Explore 3 or a Cricut Maker 3, they can do things like cut smart materials up to 12 feet in length. So what you're getting here is the Cricut ecosystem is evolving where you can process materials faster and faster so you can get more done. So the Cricut Autopress is just another entry in that lineup, and we're going to talk about how it exactly does the simplification process across different material types. Now, to figure out what exactly I wanted to test with Autopress, I wanted to keep a few parameters in mind. First off, I wanted to work with Cricut Smart Materials for the faster cutting times, and I also wanted to try out Cricut Infusible ink just to see how it works on the Autopress. Now, with both of these things in mind, I also wanted to look at how it works with doing batches of something like a Cricut blank versus if you're working with an independent colored t-shirt. Now, for this focus, I really wanted to do a small batch, not just of Cricut blanks, because I want to see how the information that you get in the Cricut Heat app and something like the Cricut Heat Guide can be transplanted towards something new. Now, overall, you're not going to always get exactly the same heat settings across different materials, so you're going to want to keep all those things in mind when working with the Cricut Autopress. Now, with the Autopress, longer designs may be a demerit, but if you're working with smaller materials or blanks, you're really not going to have any issue here. Now, I like to add sleeve designs typically to anything that I press, and the width of the Autopress is great for that. Now, other things like Cricut's pillow cases also fit really neatly in here. You can take advantage of the wide dimensions to really get a good feel where your design is going to land. In terms of doing something like a wood panel, I was able to really test the automatic adjustments of thickness. So I took around a 1-inch wood panel and I pressed iron on onto each using Cricut's instructions via their heat guide. And I got really good presses of 2. So instead of focusing on applying even pressure to something like this, which isn't going to be perfectly flat against something like a table, you can focus on getting more intricate designs and really placing on it whatever you want while the Autopress handles the heavy lifting. Now, when talking about other materials with the Autopress, I wanted to touch on infusible ink. Now, overall, I consider infusible ink to be more of a difficult to use material versus Cricut's vinyl options. So when using infusible ink, why might you want to use the Autopress for it? Now, you're still going to want to follow Cricut's heat guide for any infusible ink blanks that you're working with, as well as any help ones to get you started so you don't get anything like bleeding going on. Now, with the Autopress, what I liked about it was it allowed me to take some of the more difficult to use materials, in the case of the infusible ink, and focus on doing more intricate designs. Now, I was able to transfer a 3-color infusible ink design to both a pillow as well as a tote by really focusing on that part, the design element, while the Autopress just distributed even heat with a little barrier with some butcher paper. Now, I would advise using something like Cricut's heat-resistant tape to prevent any possible movement with these, but overall, I was really pleased with what it did with infusible ink. Overall, the Autopress has worked well with whatever material I've worked with it, So if you're looking to try different aspects of Cricut's line of products, you can definitely take advantage of the Autopress in this way. Now, the last area I want to focus on with the Autopress is how you can queue multiple presses back to back. Now, with the Autopress, Cricut has introduced this size pressing mat. Now, you can purchase a separate mat, so if you're working with a simple design that will fit on this very easily, you can press one and then prep it next and then swap between the two and set up your own chain of assembly this way. But if you are working with a larger material or a larger design, you may not find it very fluid to transfer via this twice. Instead, you may find out that you're adjusting over and over again. So one of the things you want to keep in mind is you need to strategize what's best for you. If you've already purchased Cricut's other easy presses, then you can definitely get someone to help you and have someone press something like this. In one test, I did like where I did a bunch of smaller designs on the Autopress, and then some of the longer designs I would do with Cricut's Easy Press that I already had, and a larger heat press mat. So again, really you need to think about what works for what materials you're going to work with and what designs you're going to press with the Autopress. Overall, it is a simplifying matter, and you're going to find it to be faster in terms of results regardless of how you're doing it, but there are a few options that you need to keep in mind when working with the Autopress. Now, the question is whether you should purchase the Cricut Autopress. Now, one of the major areas is going to be price point. It is considerably more since this is a professional heat press. Now, if you are just doing smaller jobs, you may want to look at something like older versions of the Cricut Easy Press or the Easy Press 3 based off your needs. Now, another thing to keep in mind is the Autopress is smaller than other commercial heat presses, but you do get some conveniences in terms of the automation as well as the fact that it is fairly succinctly small, so you can tuck it away when you're not using it. Overall, with the Cricut Autopress, you're going to need to weigh how much it costs and how much you're going to be using it and how much you value the conveniences it brings. So I want to thank Cricut for providing the Autopress testing unit. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below, and like and subscribe if you enjoy this style of content. And for an in-depth written review of the Cricut Autopress, head over to makeuseof.com.